Now, I must admit, I'm really enjoying this summit. Right? But the reason isn't just meeting you guys. The reason is that status is so prominent. Right? Now, it's a truth. We've all worked in the industry for a while, and it's true that points are a beautiful money-making machine, right? Which we all focus on, and we've all done really well out of. Right? But it's also true that status, airline status particularly, is much more powerful. Right? Airline status is one of the few areas in the whole industry where you actually get close to true loyalty. Maybe not for everyone, but airline status can drive an emotional attachment that points cannot. Yeah? Most of your even in your programs, most of your tiered members will book direct. They'll be far less price sensitive, which means they pay more over time, and they will care about status. We heard earlier that people ring up and say, what do I need to do to maintain status? Right? There's a real fear. If you talk to your members, there's a real fear of losing it. And a lot of members that have status will not fly with someone they don't. Right? And yet, you go back over the last 15 years, as an industry, once we worked out the magic of the points currency, then nearly all the focus has been on points. Right? And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I am saying that there's something else over here, which is more powerful, right? Can really engage customers, because the industry is called loyalty, and we can actually do it here. Right? And if you get it right, it actually comes with more power and less cost than the points. Right? And yet, right, maybe not these esteemed members of the panel, and yet, but many airlines, they don't focus on it at all. Most airlines have the same earn structure that they've had for 20 years. Right? I visited an airline just this week, a major European airline, and I asked them, what do you do before you downgrade customers? And the answer was, nothing. Right? Nothing. Right? A major airline. Right? There's nothing more powerful than a downgrade to stop you flying with someone. Yeah? And yet that airline was doing nothing. Right? But the smart airline, why I love this conference, this summit, is that the smart airlines, and some of them are here, are waking up. Yeah? So the smart airlines are waking up, they're realizing that they've got something in their tool bag which they can use to engage customers, to retain customers, get more money out of customers, and even to acquire customers. It wasn't used like that before, but the smart airlines are. So I think I've got a fantastic panel today. I'm obviously biased, but because we've got the leaders of airline programs, and running an airline program gives you an insight into loyalty which few others can get, I think. Right? But we've got the leaders of the airline program from Star Alliance, currently.
A few more months, yeah.
Yeah. From One World, and from SkyTeam. And previously, I ran Virgin's program for many years when it's on the line. So between the four of us, I think we pretty much cover the world, or cover the industry. So I'm really excited to find out. Now, our task today is to talk about the future of status. And to me, that's the most interesting of all. Because if I'm right, that we're now waking up to status the way the industry woke up to points 20 years ago. And if that is the case, then we've got another journey ahead of us. Cool. So I know, Ben, you've had an introduction already, but would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. So I'm Aron Backström. I'm responsible for product and loyalty at SES. And in that role, of course, I manage Eurobonus, which is the biggest loyalty program in Scandinavia with 8 million members. Pekka?
Very good. Pekka Antila is my name. Happy to be here. I come from Finnair. Carrier from Finland. Phil gave it away, a member of One World. We have some 10 million passengers per year, 5 million members in the program.
Cool. So I want to touch on something which was touched on earlier with Matt and the Avianca, was the structure, because ultimately status structure is a critical element. And it was interesting to hear the focus on profit, which I've not heard of before. But can you give me your views on A, what you're doing right now, But B, what's your thoughts on where's the structure going to evolve over the next 5-10 years? So,
I think it was super interesting to hear the discussions this morning, because clearly there's no consensus in this area. We had Lufthansa with I wouldn't say traditional, but a model that's very based on flyer engagement, and you have Avianca Life Miles on the other hand, with purely profit driven. And I would guess that most programs are still somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I could maybe build on that. Where to start? So Finnair Plus program that's the name of our program. We went through a transition during the past year. We adopted the revenue or spend-based model, as we call it, and obviously, we thought that is the right way to go, because we are not 100% spend-based. We have our currency accrual and our tier qualification spend-based, but with our partners, it's still distance and booking class based.
And I think, the interesting thing in the industry too is how it can be region specific. So in the US, we've seen American kind of pioneered this, but you've seen this with Delta and United that have followed, which is they've now extended the qualification to effectively every mile count, similar to what we heard earlier. But that from Americans, they've come out and said this, but that drove 45% increase in co-brand credit card signups and additional spend on those cards, and more use of their travel portals for hotel and rental car partners, and so it really drives a lot more of that kind of ecosystem engagement. I think, like you said, we're somewhere in the middle, and I think it, depending on the market, you can't always copy and paste, but it's interesting to see how that works. So at the same time, not losing the customer confidence that, okay, this is what I can understand or what I can expect it to be, but at the same time innovating so that we can drive more sales and more yields from these customers.
Do you think the geography makes more difference, or the airline model? Being like full service, hybrid?
I think it's cultural, to be honest, because I think, the two largest airlines in Europe, and Ryanair and EasyJet, don't have a loyalty program. Ryanair is probably the most profitable airline in the world, and they are low cost, right? They are not network based. They have no connections. They serve secondary, tertiary airports. Their model works, right? But I think it depends on, to your point, what kind of customer that airline looks for, what the customer culture is like. In our case, French consumers are very different than American consumers, right? So we have to handle, and very different than Dutch consumers. And those are our three biggest markets. So how do you make sure that we respond to the needs of all of them, while trying to push each one in their own way to effectively spend more?
There's also something, I think, on demand composition. So at least what we're seeing in Northern Europe is that business travel is coming back relatively slowly compared to leisure travel, and our planes are more filled with infrequent travelers than before. And I think to be a successful loyalty program, then you need to be more focused on your non-air partnerships. The credit cards become relatively more important, and you are moving in the life miles direction, right? And need to do that to stay relevant.
So you think this move towards leisure changes the structure of the earn structure of the programs?
I think so. I think you need to find ways to make it rewarding to spend on your credit card and make the program attractive, even if you only fly once or twice a year. But since you're so engaged with this everyday program, of course you're going to go to SAS when you book your yearly vacation flight.
I think we have touched the kind of challenge of communication and the need for simplicity a couple of times today, and I think exactly what you are addressing here highlights the importance of having those easily understandable benefits for those who just join the program, who engage with the airline very seldomly, so that they understand the value of choosing Finnair, not SAS, right?
But it's an interesting point that you mentioned, because even getting them to sign up, so we do these studies where we call it loyalty value, which is kind of the revenue that we generate to the airlines, independent from the miles that we sell. And even the infrequent travelers who travel maybe once a year, and just by joining the program and reaching our Explorer level, they spend on average 9% more than somebody with the same behavior that is not a member. So there is still interest in getting them engaged and making them feel that value. I think you're right.
Is that chicken and egg then? Are they joining because they're more likely?
That's a good point. I don't know.
But the other thing I'm interested in is does getting the lowest tier, not the everyday tier, but the lowest tier actually change behavior Because you don't get a lot in the lowest tier. Have you seen much of that?
So I think the proudest people that you'll see are those who have achieved that first level for the first time. You go to the airport security and you'll see them with their baggage tags and they're so proud to show it off. And those that travel every week, they just don't care. They just want to be, they're the ones that the bags are all beat up and everything. But it's, I think so.
Okay. And Pekka, how about in Finnair? Do you see a change when people step into silver?
So what we do is that as part of the transformation we went through, it's not simple. You cannot tell that it's easier or more difficult to earn status. We want to make sure that we get people on board. We want to make sure that the people who join the program feel the value of it, and so that they can also get maybe to the next year. Not easily, but it should be still doable, right? And the value of that, we are not the first one to do it. It's not innovation, but we introduced free messaging Wi-Fi for our entry level, so that as soon as you join, you can join on board, and then you get the free messaging Wi-Fi, so that you really feel that there is meaning in being part of this.
Then, and have you, or any of you, done any work on what do the members value? What's the value that members put on each tier? Want to go first, Aaron?
Yeah, sure. It's gradually increasing, right? But the big step is at the gold tier, because then you get into all the alliance benefits and access to all the Star or Sky or whatever alliance you're part of lounges. So I think that has historically been our struggle a little bit, that you're not getting enough on silver, you're not getting enough on diamond. Everything happens at gold, which is the third tier.
That's what we found too. Not so much from the silver to gold, but certainly with differentiating above the higher tiers was a challenge, because that's where we would see customers who say, well, I'm mid-tier, I don't see too much value in going for the top, I'm going to get mid-tier on BA or Lufthansa or whatever it is, and they were comfortable with that. And I think our challenge was, how do you get them to continue to choose us in between and above, and that's the challenge.
Have you looked at how much they value it?
Well, we saw, as a different way to look at it, we introduced XP, which is our status currency, when you book or when you purchase a sustainable aviation fuel, which was a way for us to kind of help encourage members to kind of do the right thing and offset their flight with sustainable aviation fuel. And when we did that, we saw an 800% increase in members purchasing SAF. I don't think from one day to the next they became much more concerned about their carbon footprint. So, and SAF, for anybody who's purchased it, is not cheap. So it's, there was a significant investment that they were willing to make to help them to maintain or earn the next level. And that's why they were purchasing so much SAF.
So they were purchasing SAF as a way of getting the
exactly.
tier. So you can work back from that and work out how much they were valuing.
Yes.
Are you willing to share?
No.
Damn, we'll have a chat afterwards. Pekka, have you done any work on what the member values?
Yeah, well, I think we know quite well what members on the higher tiers value. And yeah, no surprises there. That's the upgrades, it's the lounge, it's all that.
Yeah.
I guess what we should understand better is what those who join the program, once they understand what they can get, what do they value, and then build on that.
Yeah, but the area I'm pushing on is it's an observation. Yeah, so I've sat in your shoes, and I've done the same thing you guys, which is I think logical. Right? You look at the logical benefits, and you want a logical step up. Right? And I was there. Right? But when I've been a little bit outside, then I've started to look at it from an emotional point of view. That there is this intangible, right, completely irrational value. I have to translate it into a number, but I've observed it. What they're willing to do for something which has, on paper, much less value is crazy. And sorry.
No, go on. Yeah.
I've assumed it comes to that fear again. The fear of losing something greater than the fear of wanting something. And that there's a fear of the unknown. If they've been status for a little while, that there's a fear of not having it or something. And so they will do these crazy status runs. They'll spend like 14 hours on a plane like it's physically exhausting to maintain this tier, which they could buy a lounge access if they really wanted, right? But I'm finding it fascinating now. I'm outside the industry talking to members and stuff, that there is this real, like that's what I call it, the real loyalty. Crazy. So, Pekka?
Yeah, I guess I wanted to build on that and maybe revisit my previous answer on what members value. So they value, yes, the benefits that we know, but definitely many members value the connection with the airline and the people who work with the airline, which maybe is a bit surprising. Not only when they have a problem and they want to get it sorted, but maybe an example, like I think we discussed in the morning here, or the colleagues discussed how adopting a revenue-based model might move the program a bit to the rational side instead of the emotional side. And as we did that, we have been, of course, paying a little bit of attention to how we can build that emotional connection with the members. And we have been inviting thousands of members to cinemas, to amusement parks, to cocktail receptions during the spring. And it's interesting to see that when we invite people to see a children's movie, we get adult couples joining to the event because they so much want to have that connection with the airline. And then they come to see the movie, and then they have a chat with our colleagues. And I think that is so valuable, even if it might be a bit funny example that.
And then they have your email address, and they can send you requests at the middle of the night. And,
no, they didn't even ask for that, but yeah, maybe they found it somewhere.
You're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has anyone ever had their mobile number put on social media?
Not the mobile number, but the email address.
No, yeah.
Email?
Yeah.
Okay. I had my mobile and it was an absolute nightmare.
I can imagine. Especially in Australia. They'd be calling you at all times of the night.
Oh, I know, exactly. But I made a mistake because the email was there, but I had auto-reply and the mobile number was on there. And I literally didn't sleep for the next 3 months. Yeah. So
If I could just add to what you just said, because there's it's a natural bias that we see. It's called loss aversion bias, where the pain of losing something is more than the joy of finding the same thing. So the fear of losing access to the lounge or the priority check-in or whatever is worse than somebody who's never had it and says, oh, okay, what do I need this for? Because it's not something I value. And that works in our favor. It keeps people engaged, like you say, and it leads to that emotional choice, which leads to irrational decisions, which in our industry is what it's all about. How do I make somebody pick me over my colleagues here when we're more expensive or we're less convenient or whatever? And it's that emotion that really works.
Yeah, when I've researched this, the willingness to pay is massive.
Yeah.
The willingness to pay, that's what I talked about before. They pay more, less price sensitive, completely irrational for what they're actually getting. But the next question, I think, is the most important. Right? So we're all agreeing that they value it more irrationally. Right? So I'll start with you first, Ben. Have you started to commercialize that? Have you started thinking around how do you commercialize the fact that they value this thing?
Not as much as we could. I think. I think we're starting to play with, and I think some other airlines have already started to do this. But do you start to push for and differentiate Emirates said this yesterday. They put additional bonuses on the low load factor flights, for example, right? Which might be low load factor because they're perhaps at a time which is less convenient for the market. So you can play with that. There's, I think you also can play with emotion when it comes to things like commercializing ancillaries, insurance. People like, and you've seen this if you've paid attention. I think they do this a lot in the U.S. because the regulations are different. But when our insurance partners, Allianz, and they're also partners with United, they were showing us that when they introduced the insurance into the booking flow, and they put a price. So they said, okay, your ticket is, $500. They said, do you want to insure your $500 trip? The conversion went up like 30%, because that concept of saying, I don't want to lose this $500 that I spent or I'm going to spend. So you remind them of how much this trip cost. And as a result, that works to increase conversion because of that emotional security that they feel. For only $5.99 or whatever the price is. So there's a way of working with that.
Yeah, makes sense. Aron, have you looked at commercializing the status?
We have. I think it's a balancing act, because the minute you put a dollar or euro value on gold status, you lose all of the magic, right? So you need to take it very carefully, step by step. What we're doing is that we're using it for our partners as well. So letting the partner ecosystem get access to the status. So if you hold a certain credit card, you get a little push towards status. We have started doing it on rental cars as well. So if you rent a car through our new platform, you earn a couple of status points on that. And I think that's a pretty nice way to bring low frequent travelers into the status pyramid as well.
Brilliant. How about you, Pekka? What are you doing at Finnair?
In that area, maybe an example would be that we are one of the airlines that allow exchanging loyalty currency to tier points, and that is a very popular option. And of course, we can then time that with the opportunity to sell miles or Avios, in our case, so that it's a possibility. Members are happy, we are happy. Everybody's happy. And then the sign-up bonus, like get a co-brand, you get a status upgrade and such.
And you talked a bit about subscriptions earlier, Ben. I mean, that could be a logical way to do it as well, right? Accelerate your way to status by paying this extra monthly fee.
Yeah. So I must admit, I find this conversation fascinating, right? Fascinating, because if you do go back, maybe 15 years. I'm trying to think when it changed. Right? If you go back 15 years, this panel could have been the same airlines, and we would have been saying the same things about points. But people were saying, I'm never going to sell points. Yeah. So Virgin was the first to do the revenue accrual back in 06. Right? And 08, the whole room of people told me I was an idiot. So.
I didn't know that.
No, it wasn't that long ago, right? And now what I'm feeling is the same thing. People are exploring a little bit, we're testing a little bit. There's a rational fear of screwing with it, right? Because it works.
It's a money machine.
And it's an absolute money machine. But if the logic follows that over the next few years, because this is about the future, I think it's logical over the next few years, the smart airlines are going to start exploring a little bit more. The subscriptions, I definitely think that's a sort of rational. It's brilliant that Emirates give it a go. And that we'll be sat here in 20 years with status being probably more leveraged because it's a perfect currency in many respects than points. So, but we'll see. Like I say, in 08, everyone thought we were a completely irrational, mad people. Yeah.
Prepared.
Point of interest though, at the same time, we also put in revenue accrual for status, and it completely bombed. Right? Completely bombed. Now that didn't mean it was wrong. It was wrong for the time. It was too much too soon, and people didn't understand it. So it's interesting to see the industry move towards that now.
But that's the experimentation, right? You move a bit, and then you went too far, and then you go back and try again. I think that's natural development.
That's exactly right. But the challenge we've all got, or you've all got, is that no one knows what the answer is. So in theory, try a little bit and pull back, but failures are never welcome.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, failing is not easy.
No, failing's not easy. Yeah. No, exactly. Does anyone else share the biggest failure? Pekka, am I going to be mean to you? What do you think the worst thing you've ever done in a program?
Lovely question. You didn't give any heads up about this. No. Well, luckily, I don't think there are like massive ones that I'm aware of. If you know, please let me know. If it flies. Maybe I can just elaborate. So Finnair Plus is 32 years old program, not one of the oldest ones, not necessarily one of the newest ones. We joined OneWorld in the late 90s, quite soon after OneWorld was established, and then the program has remained rather similar all the way until last year. And then we decided to adopt Avios and move to spend-based like at the same time and make some other changes to program. So it was a lot to take in, of course, for the members, and we planned it, and it went pretty much as we planned. But of course, it's a massive communication challenge to get that message through in a way that we think reflects the reality for members. So you can never do that part well enough, I guess.
That's a good answer. The trouble is, Aaron's had a little bit of time to think.
No, but there's definitely something around communication, right, Pekka? That you have some stuff that's good news, or at least neutral news, or good for some, bad for some, and we're not managing to get through with the right message. And I think we're getting increasingly smart in using bloggers and fan sites and whatever to leak stuff in a positive way, but that's an area where we've gone wrong a couple of times in recent years, I think.
Okay, and Ben?
Yeah, I would echo the communication piece. I mean, for us, it was actually more status-based. I think in 2017, 2018, we launched a new tier called Ultimate, which is our top tier, and it was done in consultation with our members who would ultimately qualify for that tier, no pun intended. It was when we launched it, it was kind of the soft launch. It was done in a way where we didn't call attention to it. We didn't have any PR. We didn't even mention it on our website. And it was, I think, we didn't want to offend the platinums to let them know. And so we ended up making some changes. I would say probably 3 years ago, and we sent out an email saying, "Oh, by the way, we're making these changes to the program," and it was sent to both Ultimates and Platinums. 80% of the Platinums that responded, because you can respond saying, "What did you think of this email? What is Ultimate?" And we're going, okay, well, we've clearly failed in letting them know that there's a tier that they can aspire to. So now it's on our website. We publicize it. We advertise it at the airport. I mean, it's much more visible. But just goes to show you, to know how members are going to react.
No, brilliant. To be fair, I'm happy to share my biggest mistake. That was we had a traditional, no, it wasn't really traditional, but we had a 12-month fixed window, and we thought it was a brilliant idea to have a really fair rolling window. Yeah? And the theory was that if someone, an anniversary date was in February, then the credits they've earned in January didn't last very long, and it was unfair. No. So it was, from a whiteboard point of view, it was a beautiful solution. Yeah. So we bent over, we did a lot of work to put it in, bashed it out, and it was an absolute disaster. Yeah. No, but the reason was, you then have essentially two windows. You have the window for retaining and the window for acquiring tiers. So you have the same status working in two different ways, and the communication was absolutely impossible. Now that's still in place now, right? And they do the best of it. But the error, I'll share the error. The reason for the error was we got so caught up on the maths, on the theory. We were really into this because it really is a fair system. That we didn't follow it through to what is it going to look like on the website. What will it look like in the communications? How are we going to launch this thing? And when it came to that, it was we built it by then. There's no way we're going back. So I thought it'd be fair. Right. Now something else come up this morning was again it was Matt. He talked about his tiers can go up by 2.5 times. Right. Now. The reason I find that fascinating is because most of my conversations in the industry is about the fact that one of our biggest problems is lounge capacity. Right? So what's your thoughts? I'll go with Aaron first because I've been unfair to you a bit. But what's your thoughts on how do we manage can we increase the tier numbers without increasing the number of lounges?
No, so I think that we're naturally helped a bit right now because our most frequent travelers travel slightly less than they did before pandemic. So far, not a huge issue. We had big issues just after the pandemic when you didn't know how long you needed to spend at the airport, and I think average visiting time in our lounges went up from 45 minutes to an hour and a half, and everything was super crowded. But we're in decent balance right now. Obviously, that's going to change a lot when we shift Alliance and get a complete new set of other airlines in there, but so far so good.
Okay. Pekka, do you think, because the thing I liked about Avianca is they say it's a different mix of people, so you can have more without increasing the number of visits. Do you see that same trend in the future?
Maybe again going back to the changes that we implemented, and now the customer base on higher tiers will look a little bit different going forward due to the qualification criteria. I guess it's fair to say that it's a little bit of aligning the value that we give and we get as well, and I don't think we're going to have any problem growing that top tier population, because they will finance the investment that we need to do then going forward with the money that they bring when they use the services. I guess it's not a surprise to anyone running programs, at least, that it easily happens that someone traveling, if it's a frequency-based tier that the member has gained, which is totally fair and it's right thing to do as well. But it might happen that you end up paying as an airline more for the lounge visits than you actually get on the tickets. So that might be then a problem.
How about you, Ben? Are you seeing that we can expand the number of members?
I think, I mean, I found that statistic, that perspective really interesting when Matt raised it. But I think existing infrastructure, at least the way the programs are currently structured, I think you need more lounge space. I think you're seeing a lot of airlines opening up new lounges specifically to avoid or deal with the lounge crowding. I mean, Delta, our JV partner in the US, has unfortunate lounge crowding. At the same time, it's, we say good for them. They're having enough customers that are able to qualify and that want to fly them, and that it's good for business. But from a brand perspective, I think it hurts the brand image if you have to wait in line behind 60 people to go, eat cube cheese. It doesn't really justify the wait.
Yeah.
So it's I think, and that's where, in our particular case, we look at lounges as a bit of a brand play. So we opened up lounges in a lot of airports outside of our home hubs.
Yeah.
I think we have like almost 50, specifically because it allows us to have the brand kind of taking the space in that, and then we can send our tier members there, but also sell access. So if you can monetize access at the same time, and you're never really worried about having too few lounges or too few people in those lounges, because you can just fill it with priority pass or that.
Okay, that's interesting. So you monetize it to pay for the expansion. Okay. Personally, of all the things we've learned today, Matt's thing about the ability to 2.5 times the status was the most interesting. It doesn't mean, well, my take on it doesn't mean it's possible for every airline, but that's something I've never heard before. I've only heard the opposite. Okay. Now, bearing in mind this is about the future a little bit, what's your thoughts? I'll go to Pekka this time, but what's your thoughts on, is status about the member, or is status about more than the member, as in family?
Right. Well, what I know from my experience from our program is that one of the most valued benefits that we give to our higher tier members, so that would be those who are familiar with One World, would be like One World Emerald tier, and above that they can give away a Sapphire, so they can give a status to their family members, and that is very, very valued benefit. So I guess that partially answers the question, that it's about being able to share that joy that you get to experience.
And that is a reason, I think, to talk about something that you're very proud of, that you've made it up to this level and this very selective group of people. And when you get the chance to bring some colleagues through the fast track or bring the family into the lounge, I think it's very human that you want to do that.
Yeah. How about you, Ben?
I echo what they said. I mean, for our ultimate tier, for example, we allow them to bring up to 8 guests, and they also get the Sky Priority access and access to the lounge and all of that, because they travel so much. The thinking is, a few times a year they go on vacation, they want to show off to their family, they like to feel special, and that works well.
Yeah, I must admit that has been my experience, is that denying them their benefits when they're traveling with a family has far greater negative than other times. So it's difficult because we don't want the lounges all full of kids, I know, but the number of really angry complaints I've got when that happened was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, quite sad. So, but I guess that anger is an important one. It's emotional, right? We talked about status. One of the benefits is that it can bring an emotional attachment. How do you see the programs, the airlines embracing that going forward? Ben?
Embracing the emotional attachment?
Yeah. How can they embrace that?
I think in the airline world, it's tough, because I think we are somehow responsible for the entire travel journey from the moment you step outside your home. So if you have a flat tire on the way to the airport and you miss your flight, it's somehow our fault. I think that's where the emotion can really start to flare up. And when, if they feel they've been mistreated and they happen to have status, it's even worse because they're going, I'm so loyal and how can you treat me like that? So fortunately, we've invested a lot in our customer service team. We've given them a lot of empowerment where we can, and that seems to work really well. And especially because our top tier, they have access to a dedicated it's like an assistant, we call it a travel assistant, and who are super empowered and they can do a lot of these things, and they're wizards in the back end, and it's usually a straight line. And the first time when I took this job, I had never seen this before. They recognize you by your phone number, so you don't even have to enter it on the phone. They just go, oh, after one ring, hello, Mr. So-and-so. And that works well because if they can save the day, and a lot of us know that if you make a mistake and you fix it, the NPS actually tends to be higher than if you don't make the mistake at all. So with those investments and those kinds of empowerment rules, we've seen the NPS tends to be quite high.
Nice. Aaron?
Yeah, and I think that's the way to do it, right? Because these status holders, they spend a large share of their lives out there traveling. So whatever we can do to take some more responsibility. Okay, the flight was delayed, it's not our fault, but we're going to take care of you anyway. I think that's a position to really take and hold on to. I think the biggest thing we've done for our top tier members in the last year is that we're now giving them full flexibility on the day of travel. Okay, so there are like a ton of booking clauses and a lot of ticket rules, but you are a diamond member, so that doesn't really matter. If you want to take an earlier flight or a later flight, we'll make that work. Brilliant. And that has gone up to one of our top rated benefits now in a very short time.
Right.
Maybe on the emotional connection. So my background is in leisure travel. I moved from leisure travel to airline loyalty. I very soon realized that I'm in the business of selling credit cards, but now I'm starting to feel that I'm maybe in the business of organizing events and selling events. So that seems to be at least something that our members appreciate a lot. So maybe something in that space, like how can we build those experiences, unique experiences, and maybe make some money along the way.
So we capitalized on that. So this year, of course, everyone knows the Olympics are in Paris. And so we sent out emails to our top tiers inviting them to use their miles to purchase tickets. And that, again, you kind of create that link and that emotion, you capitalize on that emotion. So it works well.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to be fair now, because I want to hear from each of you, what is the thing you've done in your programs that you're most proud of? You're most proud of. And it could be something that's just commercially good or something which is really connected with customers. So I'm going to be fair to you this time, Pekka.
I guess the most rewarding moments have been those, even if the discussions are usually, they start with a negative sentiment, but to have a very good discussion with the top tier customer, maybe over Teams, in person, how it would be. I think the feeling that when you leave that discussion and you feel that the customer is happier or a lot happier than before the discussion, that is at least rewarding. And then being maybe the proudness comes from the decision to invest that time into the discussion and taking that maybe difficult discussion.
Nice.
Yeah, so I already talked about mine, this full flexibility. Another one we're really happy about is the dedicated call center agents that we introduced for our top tier members. I think that was a big change because previously we matched call center agents who've been working for a month in the job with frequent travelers out there traveling with us every day of the year for the last 10 years, knowing every ticket rule, knowing every airport code. It's not a fair conversation. Now we have a small team of airline geeks who take care of the top tier members, and it's super great. They know each other by name. Not only they know which customer is calling, but the customer also knows that Marco at the office is a really good guy.
Brilliant.
That's cool.
And you, Ben?
I would say it's more on the corporate side, and that was the financial transaction we did last year. Because, like I said, it was one of the first times outside of the US that airlines were able to leverage the value of the loyalty program. And going up against some private equity sharks, to show and highlight the value that we bring and that it's worthwhile investing such a big amount, especially in a higher interest rate environment, I was proud of that, because then it also allowed us on the flip side internally to prove ourselves for stakeholders. For those of you who deal with loyalty programs, revenue management or other teams who question you all the time on the value you bring and look at you as a cost center. Say, no, look, we bring profit, which then makes other decisions later easier. So that was pretty. I was pretty proud of that.
Oh, I'm not surprised. I'm happy to share mine. It's not. I guess I'm proud of it. It's something very simple. It's parental leave. Just parental leave for your tiered members. But what made me proud of it was after we put it in, I was on a plane and I seen a reasonably obviously pregnant lady, and I like to talk to passengers, so I just introduced myself and said, do you know we got parental leave? And all you need to do is ring up, tell us you're having a baby, and you get 18 months. And she burst into tears. And because she burst into tears, it was a bit embarrassing.
She was going into labor.
Yeah, but when she calmed down, she said one of the things she's been concerned about is that she won't be able to fly for the next year, and that she would lose her status. And it's that loss aversion thing. And to me, that was a real insight. So it wasn't expected. We did it because it was just a good thing to do. But the engagement, I think, is really good. Now, any questions from the floor? I want to give you enough time. Is that the silence? Is that because you've answered everything, or you're all going to
You're all paneled up, I think.
I think you covered the topic so widely and exhaustively that there are no more questions open.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone.